Okay. So, good morning, everyone. I propose we begin with the second day of our conference. I hope you had a good night's rest and are ready to take on the new challenges with renewed energy. So, it is my great pleasure to introduce today's keynote speaker, Nika Kovač. Nika holds a master's degree in social and cultural anthropology from the University of Ljubljana. She was part of the 2020 Obama Foundation Leaders Program in Europe and Obama Scholar at Columbia University from 2021 to 2022. In 2021, two major Slovenian magazines, Trivia, named her Personality of the Year, and in 2024, she received the Vital Voices Global Leadership Award. She's also an author of several books. Now, Nika is best known for her work as a political activist and as the founding director of the 8th of March Research Institute, which is a non-profit dedicated to highlighting injustices, tackling inequalities, and championing human rights. The Institute works to break the silence around sexual violence and gender discrimination, not only, but among other things, by collecting testimonials and data. It initiated the Slovenian Me Too campaign a while ago. Now, under Nika's leadership, the Institute drove advocacy efforts that led to a legal redefinition of rape and sexual violence in Slovenia, adapting the yes means yes affirmative consent model in 2021, I think. It has also spearheaded multiple civil initiatives, Nika and her team, resulting in important legislative reforms, including the free school lunches for primary school children, just to name one. Nika coordinated at least two national referendum campaigns, one against the Water Act in 2021 and another in 2022, opposing political interference in public media. She also led Slovenia's largest Get Out the Vote campaign, helping achieve what was, I think, a record turnout in 2022 elections to the European Parliament. And, of course, last year, she, with her team, launched the My Voice, My Choice movement, a pan-European initiative advocating for abortion rights. Within a year, they collected 1.2 million signatures across the EU for the European Citizens Initiative, calling for the European Commission to establish a financial mechanism to help member states advance access to safe abortion services. Now, before I give the floor to Nika, I'm especially pleased that she agreed to deliver today's keynote speech. And that is for two reasons. First, following yesterday's keynote by the Vice President of the Constitutional Court of the Republic of Slovenia, Neža Kogovšek-Šalamon, who spoke to us from a position of institutional authority, although it probably didn't seem so. Nika now brings a valuable and necessary counterpoint, metaphorically speaking. She will amplify the voice of civil society in our discussions here. And secondly, my favorite, I'm particularly delighted to welcome Nika here at the Faculty of Law in Ljubljana, because although she's not a lawyer by training, she has engaged with the law in meaningful and diverse ways, as I hope was clear from my brief introduction. And we lawyers can be notoriously protective of our professional domain, and inviting an anthropologist and or sociologist to speak at a legal academic conference may have raised a few eyebrows. But as someone remarked, I think it was yesterday in one of our sessions, we are all here to be just a little bit subversive. So, Nika, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Okay, hi to all of you. He already told my beginning of the lecture. I wanted to say that I will disappoint you, that I'm not a lawyer. I don't have a legal degree, to my dad's sadness. I am a sociologist and anthropologist, and I think this is one of the reasons why I really, really admire lawyers and why I really, really admire law, because I see it as one of the crucial pillars of society. But what I also see is that law is never something in a bubble, that law is never non-ideological, that it's always established in a concrete time and in a concrete context. And as an activist, I'm always curious how to change time and context to make some legal changes. And I will try to speak today about this, how basically law helped us form a totally new strategy for a civil society in Slovenia, why I think it's important, and also what is the power of legal changes and how they can be a source to tackle polarization. This will be my topics, and I'm also happy to be here. Okay, so I don't know if it's working. You see, I'm a sociologist. I also don't know how to use technology. Okay. Okay, I will just do it like this.
Okay, no. Okay, no.
Okay, so I can also speak without PowerPoint. For me, it's not a problem. Okay, I will just start and then, okay. So firstly, I wanted to say a little bit about which organization I'm representing. I am coming from an organization called Institute End of March. The organization was established 8 years ago after my first attempt to coordinate a referendum. I was one of the 2 coordinators of the marriage equality campaign in Slovenia, which we lost, and we lost it a lot. And after this, I became obsessed with an idea how to organize campaigns, how to push for a change in a society, and basically how to speak with the people in a way that they will understand you, and how to organize the society. Secondly, marriage equality referendum taught me about a lot about planning and about using legal strategies to achieve what you want. And I will finish my lecture with this and mention also Miha, who is sitting here, because he was super formative for me in a way how to lead the fight. So, Institute 8 of March, we are a group of mostly girls. When we started, we were around 20. Now we are coming to middle age, and we are still sticking together. And basically, when we were established, we just wanted to be an organization organizing roundtables in faculty, speaking about inequality, about poverty, and about gender. We were established after the referendum, which I lost, because I met some amazing volunteers who wanted to work with me and who wanted to continue the work. So we decided that we will create an organization. But things didn't go as we planned, like it's usually in life and in activism. And a group of professors from Faculty of Social Justice asked us to coordinate a Me Too campaign in Slovenia. And our first response was, we don't want to do this, this is lame. We don't want to have photos with celebrities speaking about sexual harassment. We are interested in real people. I mean, celebrities are also real people, but like, we are interested in people who are like from poor communities, who are from a bad social background. We wanted to know what is actually happening with sexual harassment. So we decided at the end to still do a Me Too campaign, but to do it in a very, very different way. And we decided to do a campaign in a way to collect the testimonies of women who were victims of sexual harassment. Why was this important? Because our idea was that we don't want to be just the organization which is empowering people, which is raising awareness. I think this is the lamest type of civil society, and I'm strongly against it. And I really believe that you need to have a very concrete thing that you are fighting for to basically be useful in this society. So what we decided to do is that we decided to analyze all the testimonies that we got. We got more than 200 of them, and we realized what are the things which are not working in the system. And at that time, we started to ask ourselves, like, what to do when you know that something is not working in the system, and the answer was change the system. And we realized that you can change a system in Slovenia in a very different ways than in most of the countries. You can prepare a law, collect signatures for the law. You need 5,000 verified signatures and bring it to the parliament where people need to vote about it. So you are not dependent on politicians, which is a good thing, and you force them to speak up about different topics. So after the Me Too campaign, we prepared a law to change the definition of rape. And it was the first time that we went through the process of basically changing the legalization in the country. I decided not to speak about this case because it was the most controversial for this faculty, and I don't want to make any scandals, so I will speak about some other case, which was also important for us, and try to explain how we use law on this very, very concrete case. Okay, so in the Institute, we work with many different communities. And when we were coordinating the referendum against privatization of water, we met a community of Anhovo. This is a very small community in one of the rural parts of the community of Slovenia. And this community is basically totally different than we are. We are a very loud group of feminists who are always like speaking up. They're a group of super religious old guys who live in these communities for years. But we met them during the campaign against privatization of water because this was one of the only communities in Slovenia which didn't have access to safe drinking water and which didn't have clean air. And they decided in the referendum campaign to speak up about those issues. They were speaking up how it is to live in that kind of community, how it is if you get sick because of the water pollution, if you get sick because of the air pollution. Soon we learned that the main problem of their diseases is that the company which is placed in this rural community is the company which was producing asbestos. And for a long time, people didn't know that this is basically killing them. When the production of asbestos was forbidden in Slovenia, the company still decided to make profit out of this small community, and they still decided to basically attack the community in a very particular way. They started to burn waste, and they burned waste in a very, very large numbers, which meant that air was very polluted, and which meant that a lot of people in that community got lung cancer. So we met them, we started to talk with them. We didn't get along at the beginning, but we found a way how to communicate around water. And when we won the referendum, they came to us and they said, we know that now you will forget about us. We know that now we will stop thinking about us because people always use us as a good story. We are like monkeys of the rural communities, but then they don't do anything to protect us. And we promised them that we will help them. And we promised them that we will help them in a very concrete way and to basically limit the amount of waste that this company can burn in this village. I will now show you one video so that you just see how the situation looked like that. I hope it will be working. If not,
You put the hook.
Okay. So I will just explain to you. So basically, it's a very poor community. People needed to use plastic bottles of water to cook. They needed to basically stay inside in certain hours of the day if they didn't want to get sick. And no one wanted to change this law because the company in the village was basically working with the right wing and with the left. We learned at that time two different things. The first thing is that when capital is included, it doesn't matter to which side you belong. Social Democrats and the right-wing party were working together against the people in this community. And second thing, we managed to break our differences with the community around a mutual agreement that we need to clean the air in the community. Why I'm saying this is because this is the first lesson of my lecture. through very concrete changes, through very concrete ideas, what you want to change, you can build coalitions. And these coalitions are coalitions which are going beyond our usual social bubble. As Dylan said, they're a bit subversive. So we suddenly had this big coalition of the super religious guys in their 70s and a group of feminists who decided to change the situation in the city. What we did, we prepared a law together. We prepared a law which would limit the amount of burning of the waste in the community, and we started to collect signatures for that law. What was interesting was that a lot of the media ignored us. What was interesting was that there was a lot of paid experts who went against us because the company started to pay the people to lead campaigns against us. But what was also interesting was that this campaign, because it was around very concrete issue, united the people that would never stand together in other ways. I still remember how those guys were saying to us that they cannot believe that we work together and that they really appreciate that we connected around that topic. We led a campaign. We were harassed by the company. We were harassed by the media. We were harassed by the left. We were harassed by the right. But we stick together, and at the end we managed to change the law with no votes against in the parliament. Why was this important? Because the first time in 20 years, this community got a sense that they are seen by the public and that they are seen by the decision makers. And why it was also important was because we achieved a very concrete change, which will basically save the lives of the people. And like 2 weeks ago, the law started to become a reality in the community, and it was one of the most beautiful things that we saw, because it actually affected real lives of the people. So this methodology of finding out what is not working in the society, building a coalition around this, preparing an analysis of what we need to change within the system, preparing a legal case around this, doing a campaign for a very concrete issue, and then bullying all the politicians until you win is a methodology that we always use in the Institute 8 of March. It's a methodology of how we think civil society is the most productive, because we really believe that the key for the change are big coalitions with the people that usually do not stand together. And after we did a number of campaigns in Slovenia, we became obsessed with the idea that Slovenia is super small. There is a little bit less than 2 million people, and we started to build up the idea in our head that we need to do the same thing in the European Union. Because as the European Union, we don't have a unified civil society, we don't have campaigns which would unite so many different people on the level of European Union, and we became obsessed with the idea that we bring this methodology on a much bigger scale. And things went together very well, so maybe this is a lesson, and then we have the next slide. So things came together because I was living 1 year in New York, I was studying at Columbia, and this was the time when the Constitutional Court decided to take away reproductive rights from women in the US. And I still remember the day when that information leaked. I was there with my best friend from France, and we were watching civil society, how hopeless they were, how scared they were, and how they didn't have a strategy how to fight back. We became obsessed with two ideas. Firstly, how to make sure that Europe do not become US, and we are still obsessed with this idea more and more. And secondly, how to basically protect abortion on the level of European Union. My best friend decided that she won't lead a campaign on the European level, but she will lead a campaign to put abortion in the constitution in France, and she won. And I decided to lead a campaign to protect abortion rights on the level of European Union. So one of the things that we thought, and we were wrong, and this is always something that we realize when we work with the Institute, is that there are a lot of assumptions how the society looks like. We really, really believe that abortion is okay in the European Union, that we just need to protect it, that nothing bad happens to it, like it happened in US. But when we started doing the research, we realized that the situation is extremely shitty, also in Europe. We realized that women in Poland are being killed in hospitals because of the restrictive abortion laws, and the doctors cannot help them. We realized that if you are born in Malta and you want to have an abortion, you are risking the fact that you will go to prison because you had an abortion. We realized that in Italy, even though abortion is legal, 80% of the doctors do not want to perform it, so women do not have access to abortion. And we realized that the same situation is also happening in Croatia. We learned two different things. Firstly, that there are many different national legal frameworks which are basically creating a particular national situations in Europe. And secondly, the law is not always basically a showcase of what is happening in the society. So often things are written in the law, but the social reality is very different. People don't go with the law, people find bypasses. So we realized that we need to do a very concrete research about what is happening in the field. We then later on found out that the situation is very bad in also other countries. In Hungary, women are forced to listen to fetal heartbeat before they have an abortion. So we realized that we need to do something on the level of European Union, and European Union is totally different animal than Slovenia. And we realized that we want again to suggest a legal change in the European Union, which would basically protect the abortion rights. You see the face of Tina on this PowerPoint presentation. I think this describes the best our relationship with European law. We realized that it's super complex and that it's super hard, and that if we needed a long, long time to understand how Slovenian country function, we still don't understand how European law functions totally. Believe me, we just came from Brussels where we were 3 days. But basically, I want to speak a little bit more about the legal side of the things of our proposal. So we realized that you basically can propose a legal change if you collect 1 million signatures in at least 7 member states of European Union. The institution for this is called ECI. It is European Citizens Initiative. So basically you need to collect 1 million signatures in at least 7 different countries of European Union, and then you can propose a legal change to the European Commission. It sounded very easy. We said if we collected signatures in Slovenia, we will do this very fast throughout all the Europe, but we were so wrong, and the whole process of collecting signatures was hell. Because what we realized was that Europe is giving a legal option to propose a change, but in the operational way, they want to do everything that you don't propose a change. So basically, when you are collecting the signatures for a specific legal change, you need to put your ID number in a very old website, in a very clumsy system, and this takes not just 5 seconds, but sometimes even 3 minutes. So when people come to the webpage and they see the bureaucracy of European Union, even though they agree with the topic, they decide not to sign. So collecting signatures was extremely hard. And another thing which was extremely hard was that all the people, before we got our ECI approved, were saying to us that we cannot do this. Why? 2 different reasons. Firstly, European Union cannot intervene in national laws of member states' countries. And secondly, till now, they never mentioned abortion in the legalization of European Union. And we started to ask for help. We asked different lawyers who were like usually men saying, no, you cannot do this, it's impossible. We started to ask different NGOs. I'm still having an email from Planned Parenthood who said that this won't be possible. And then we formed a group of lawyers. I won't mention some of them because they would kill me, but at least we created a group of lawyers from Slovenia, France, very young lawyers who prepared the European Citizen Initiative. And fun fact, they were coordinated by a person who was studying philosophy. So it was a very diverse group, and we prepared the proposal, and we decided that we won't speak about abortion as a women issue, but as a health issue. That we will speak about the need to get a health service in the European Union, and that we will do it in the same way that basically people work with breast cancer in European Union. If you have a breast cancer, European Union can finance you travel to another country to basically give you the operation there if the service is better there. So what we were proposing to European Union is that basically it establish a financial mechanism which would allow women from places where they cannot have abortion to travel to places where they can get it, and they would get it there for free. And everyone said to us that Europe won't accept such a legal proposal. But then we got a call from the Commission who said, your proposal is accepted, you can start collecting signatures. And this was our first victory. So I will speak a little bit more about this slide. So then we started to collect the signatures. And as I said, everything is done in a way that you cannot collect the signatures. On the first day, we were counting to get at least 100,000 signatures. We got 30,000 of them, and we knew that we are in deep trouble. We also realized a little bit of other stuff. Firstly, people don't know how legal system in European Union functions. People don't even know what are the main institutions in European Union, because also European Union is very well hiding what they are doing in the institutions. And thirdly, basically NGOs and civil society around the Europe is much more lame than we thought. In a way that they are not willing to go on the street, that they are not willing to collect the signatures, that they are not willing to basically put a lot of effort to mobilize people around the issue. We realized that we need to build different coalitions, and we realized that it will be a lot on us. So we decided to stop working with NGOs, but to start working with volunteers, with people on the ground, with celebrities, with singers, even with religious communities. We decided to totally change the way of how we saw coalition building before, and we decided to basically use this mixture of pop culture, everyday people, unlikely allies to collect signatures for a legal change. What we did is that basically, even though all the big NGOs said that they cannot help us, even though they mostly said we will help you after you collect the signatures, and we wanted to kill them at that point, we established a campaign with the local teams in 27 member countries of European Union. We established a team of volunteers who are coordinating on WhatsApp. We organized more than 100 public events, and we organized in-person signature collection in every country of European Union. We created one of the strongest movements in the history of European Union, and also, what is more important, the movement was focused on a very concrete issue, and it was based on common solidarity. Firstly, it was solidarity to women in European Union who do not have access to safe abortion. After US elections, this story became global. We started to organize events in solidarity with women in the US, and now 20% of our followers are coming from US, and we built this beautiful sisterhood, which is supporting each other. We also decided that in the times when no one believes in your crazy idea, or there is very little people who will help you, you need to rely on the friendship. Friendship was our main infrastructure. All the people who helped us were people that we know personally. We got coordinators in different countries who are our best friends from different parts of the world. Luisa here on the photo is one of the main ecological activists in Germany. Federica was the youngest vice mayor in Italy. Sarah is a woman who led the campaign to put abortion in the constitution of France. So we created this beautiful campaign based on solidarity and friendship. And at the end, we didn't collect just 1 million signatures. We collected 1,250,000 signatures. And then in 2 months, again, another 1 million for another initiative. It was not... It was not easy, but I strongly believe that the fact that we had a very concrete legal idea behind us, that we had a really concrete understanding of legal situations in different countries, allowed us to build this coalition. Why this allowed us? Because it is very clear. The most beautiful thing about law for me, and I don't know a lot about law, is that it is very concrete and people need to say very clearly if they agree with the proposal or not. And this fact that we knew what our goal is, that we knew what we need to do to suggest a legal change to the European Union, was what basically allowed us to form this movement. This movement is now more alive than ever. Yesterday we watched the statistics on our Instagram account and we have more than 160 million of views of our posts in last month. And people started to write to us about their own challenges in their own countries. And we are thinking how to scale up to make it global and how to also organize it to fight international context. Our battle is not over. We are bringing signatures in September to Brussels. We just spent 3 days there to try to learn how to push for a legal change there, and we still don't understand it fully. But I know that with the way how we do campaigns, we will at least bring up a very concrete topic to a public debate. I think the beauty of democracy is that people don't need to agree with you. I think that the beauty of democracy is that sometimes we can fight, that sometimes we can have disagreements, but also the beauty is that there are very concrete procedures which allows you to bring the change. And in the Institute, we don't believe, even though sometimes I wish to be like this, to go on the street and burn cars, we believe to work with the lawyers, which will help you propose a concrete change, and which will allow you to basically push for something in the society. And let me spoil you, till now we didn't lose a single campaign. And at the end, I want to speak up about a campaign which I lost, which was the campaign for marriage equality. I was 22 at that time. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And Miha was coordinating one campaign for marriage equality before. And on the night that we lost, I was watching him and I saw that he is super calm and that he is sad, but he had this thing in his eyes that I still know, that he was really focused on something and decided. And I didn't understand about why he is so focused, why he is not lost like all of us. The next day, a member of parliament brought a law which proposed not full marriage equality, but basically taking away a lot of discrimination in Slovenian society for the LGBT community. Miha was so smart that he understands that we will lose the referendum, but he knew that when you are an activist, or now he's working in a serious institution, that basically fights are never over when you lose it on one stage. You always need to have a next step. You always need to have a plan B. You always need to have a next idea. And what he did was that in the time of big loss, in the time of big disappointment of the community, he used a small window of opportunity to push for a change, for a better society. And this is something that I always have in mind when we lose a battle. I always say to myself, it's not a lost battle, it's just a stage. And now a window is opening for something else, and we won't stop. And I think this is the beauty of it, that you just keep fighting, and then in one moment you win. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Nika, for that very interesting and inspiring start of the day for us. Not only we have a lot of things to talk about, I suspect, but we still have time to do so. So I invite questions, comments from all of you. We have a microphone traveling up. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Mr. Dober from the University of Basel and Leiden. Very practical question. I saw on the website of your European Citizens Initiative that your institute, the VPOH, put a lot of money into that initiative. Where do you get your finances from? Because if you have this kind of hostile environment, without money, you cannot function. So where do you get the finances from to do all this beautiful work that you have been describing to us so admirably?
Yeah, so basically, quite a long answer to a short question. For the first couple of years, Institute worked without finances. We didn't have offices, we didn't have any spaces, and after we won our first referendum campaign, a lot of girls got sick. And I started to ask them why they got sick, and they said because we were working in our jobs, like as waitresses at that time, or playing with kids, or being nannies, and then we were working for 10 hours for the institute, for the campaigns. And I realized that this idea that activism needs to be like volunteer is something which is so deeply against my values, because I believe people need to be paid for the work, and this is also work. So we started to apply to many different calls, to many different basically foundations, and the thing was that we decided that we won't take any money from the country of Slovenia, because we don't want to work with government, because we are critical to every single government, to some more, to some less. For this campaign, the idea was born when I was in New York, and I tried to get funds for the campaign for 2 years. And no one believed that there is an importance in building that kind of campaign. Then we started to work with different foundations. One of them is Raja Foundation, a company which is producing boxes in France, who has its own basic tech. We were working with the Dior Foundation. Like, we were joking that we hoped that we will get close, but we didn't. So we found many different foundations which were willing to finance the first stage of the campaign. Then our signatures were coming too slow for them, even though we were the fastest to the initiative, and all the funders went away. So after half of the campaign, we stayed without resources, and we decided to basically apply to other calls, to do other projects, and to do this voluntarily. And when we collected 1,200,000 signatures, more than half of the campaign was done without the funds, because of the disappointed funders who said that this will never succeed. But I have another story. We paired with one boy who wrote his first ECI when he was 19. He was a student in Spain, and he's gay, and he wanted to go to conversion therapy because he believed that he should go. And he was lucky enough that people said to him that if you go to conversion therapy, this is torture. They're basically starving kids, they're making kids very thirsty, they're pumping the blood out of them, and they stopped him. So he became obsessed with the idea to ban conversion therapy on the level of European Union. And he proposed his ECI that he wrote as a 19-year-old high school student, and it was accepted. So then his ex and his mother started to collect signatures, and they led the whole campaign without a single euro. Last week of the campaign, he came to me and he said, I have 250,000 signatures. Can you help me get 20,000 signatures in Slovenia so I have them in at least 5 countries? And it was night, and I was thinking, and I said, all the people said no to us. Now I don't want to be this middle-aged person saying no to young people who really believe in change. And I said to him, you know what, we won't collect just 10,000 signatures in Slovenia, we will get 1 million. And next week, we got 1 million signatures to ban conversion therapy, because we had this organization, all those volunteers, all those organizations who started to push it. On the last day, Emmanuel Macron signed the initiative, and then Slovenian Prime Minister also signed it, but we collected another 1,200,000 signatures without a single euro. So what I want to say, even if I don't agree with the idea that activists need to work for free, you can do such things without money. And it's often an excuse that you just don't want to sacrifice your free time and free will to do it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I think we have at least 1 or 2 questions.
Yes, I mean,
I have one. My name is Constanza Erben from the European University Institute. I'm also the president of Equal, which was one of the promoters in Italy, and the Federica you cited is a dear friend. So thanks for your work. This is the first thing I wanted to say. And the second has to do with the law that supported your initiative. So the European Citizens Initiative is unfortunately a completely discretionary process that the EU institutions set up. I think no legislation has come out of the 10 ECIs that managed to collect 1 million signatures. And you were super inventive in framing this as a matter of public health and requesting funding, because the EU has no competence to legislate on reproductive rights. So the question is, the campaign is super important, and you basically made a social movement happen. What if the Commission has 6 months and it replies that it doesn't have a competence, legalistically, to act on this? Okay, it's a sad question, but I think, the activism you have, it's probably you are planning already for this.
Yeah, so firstly, we are fully aware that this is done in a way that it's very useless. So if you just have an initiative and you bring it there, they just want to be fastly finished. They don't want to do anything around it. But what we believe in is that you need to make politicians afraid. That you need to make them afraid in a way that they're visible, that we know what they're doing, and that basically you create a lot of noise. Because when they know that you're watching them, they will do way less shit than they do it if you are not watching them. So our plan is to move to Brussels in September for 6 months. Not all team, but it will be different groups coming at different times, and just do a lot of things there and make it very visible. And for now, we are not taking no for an answer. I'm sure that we will develop new strategies if they say no. But what I also learned from, I think that mostly from Mika, is that you don't have to give them the scope to say no. Because I think that if we enter the process with the idea that they will just say no, we will do everything way less efficient than if we want to believe that something will happen. And now what we are doing is that we are building a coalition in EPP, the conservative part of the parliament, because we think we need to have at least women from there to stand with us and to show that this is not a divisive topic, but that 70% of Europe stands behind it.
thank you. Next question, I will come back to you here in the front there. Go ahead.
Thank you. I really want to stop the equality body, gender equality body from Belgium. Fellow guests from your speech, fellow guests from you as a person. In Belgium, we usually, as an equality body, you work with grassroots organizations not like yours, but your next level. And thanks to this coalition with grassroots movements, we prohibited conversion therapy in Belgium. We had yes, no, not no, yes. We have not yes means yes, but no means no. Great definition. But that's based also on the grassroots movements. They support our recommendation. So that's my question. Do you consider to build a coalition with equality bodies in your country, in different countries, or maybe they are on a formal level or an informal level? Maybe they can be your partner. Last thing, never stop the fight.
We built, I will wait for that. Yeah.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so basically, we built a big coalition. We didn't think about equality bodies, maybe we can also about this. For now, what we decided is that the second part of the campaign will be different than the first part, which was mostly grassroots. One of the things that we believe in the Institute is that nothing is not political. That every single thing that you do is political. And one of the things which annoys me personally the most are NGOs which are saying that they are non-political and that they don't work with politics. We all work with politics. If you don't work with politics, it's also a political act. So what we always do is that we are super transparent with who we work and how we work. And we decided that on this stage, members of parliament who support us will be equal members of the team. So for us, it will be like when we get an ally, they're equal to us. We post them, we post the meetings, we stand with them, and we also are very clear to them that this is just on this issue. If they won't agree with us on another issue, then we will fight about the issue. But when you're our ally about a concrete topic, then basically we work together. So right now we are thinking much more about how to get members of parliament on board and how to get individual commissioners on board with us. So this is how we will start.
Thank you. I think one more question here in front.
I think behind you, yeah, thank you very much.
Hello, thank you. I'm Kasia, I'm from Poland, so might be warm thank you to you, and of course I was observing the initiative and yeah, giving my voice for that. And well, it's rather not common. Well, my most basic question, of course, it's too stupid to ask it, but it's what's the source of your energy and how you deal with burnout and yeah, because you know, working for NGOs and activists, I'm an academic, but I also deal with activists, also with reproductive rights. So I know how hard they work and how it's difficult to get funding. Of course, you already asked this question, but also, for instance, in Poland, we have many NGOs and activists, but also quite often there are, you know, people are divided and have different opinions, so it's really difficult. So, yeah, so this is my question, but I was also wondering, because you are a very feminist group, and this is very feminist campaign, so what about the support of other, you already mentioned LGBT allies, but I'm wondering about other human rights NGOs and to what extent you also have support from other, like, male members of Europarlament or other, you know, just not making it only the female campaign, but you know what I mean, like the campaign that matters for everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, so about burnout, I don't have a good answer. I mostly ignore it, so I'm a very bad example. And also, I'm the only one in the institute who is not paid from the institute. So I have another job, which is that I lecture and teach about campaigning around the world. So for me, it's just the stubbornness, you know? When someone says that we cannot do this, we will do it just because. And I think this is like one of the main sources of power. Secondly, about building up different coalitions. So we were working with Oxfam, we were working also with Amnesty, we were working with, I don't know, different associations and different communities. And interesting thing about our community is that the majority of volunteers of the Institute of March are men, and mostly retired men, who are helping us to collect signatures on the street and so on. So we never believe that feminism is just like something for women. I don't like the slogan, the future is female, because if Dylan would say now to me, the future is male, I would walk out. So I think that we need to see this as a fight against all sorts of inequalities. And we also engage in other initiatives. Like for us, personally, even if we have members which didn't agree with us, we, in the big coalition, we have more than 300 NGOs, we have thousands of volunteers. For us, human rights are the main thing. And when a violation of human rights happens, we believe that we need to speak up. So we, for example, also decided to speak up about Gaza, because for us it was a matter of our values. And even though some people didn't agree with this, we decided to still be vocal. But the beauty of it is when you explain democracy as a concept, where you don't need to agree with me on every topic, people accept that you lead campaigns that they don't agree with. And for us, it's just important that we stay very, how to say, principled. This is the only thing that we have.
Okay. We have another question, I think, here in the front. You have the microphone already. Go ahead.
Hi. Hi. Can you hear me? No. The button.
Hi. Thank you so much for all the beautiful work you do. This question might be a little bit vague, but it is true that sometimes we lawyers and especially academics tend to stay too focused on theory, and we fail to see how our efforts actually translate in a material practical, tangible way. So my question would be, now that we are in a room full of enthusiastic legal scholars, what would you, as someone who is actually on the field, who works with the people, how would you, what do you need from us to help bridge this gap? Like, how can we, as lawyers, as legal scholars, actually bring our work to you in a meaningful, tangible way?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that firstly understanding. I think that the worst thing for us in the first years of our work was that most of the legal community really hated us because they had a feeling that we took something away from them. One of the worst insults that we get is that our rules are written on the street, which of course is not true. We always have like a group of very good legal experts who are working with us. But I think that we need understanding that legal framework for us is a base of activism, and that we are handling it with respect and with understanding that it is totally different sphere, but we also need that kind of understanding from you, that basically law needs to be a thing which is put in everyday life and which is changing stuff, and that it is great that if a sociologist comes to a conference to speak about use of law, it's a sign of things functioning in a democracy. So for us, it's firstly this understanding, and secondly, I would say patience, because we don't usually understand like all the procedures, and they need to be explained to us again and again. And I would say the third thing is also, especially if you're in academia, don't be just academic. I think that like you have a privileged position. My both parents are professors. This is why I can say it, because being in academia gives you like at least some stability. It gives you a job which is very intellectual. You can think, you can do stuff, and we need you with us to speak on the street. Every single time that someone from academia stands up for something that institutes is believing, we are so happy, because for us it's a recognition that we are working things like content-wise okay. So what I would need from you is that, yes, you can write some rules with us on the street.
I was thinking about allowing another question, but this sounds like an excellent point to end our discussion with. Still, any last minute questions? The last one. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for your...
So sorry, could you just wait for the microphone so that people on Zoom can hear you as well? Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your very inspiring talk. I especially like the friendship as infrastructure quote, because I guess we're all here to also build that infrastructure and be the drivers of social change as well. My question would be, you mentioned building all different kinds of coalitions, and it's I was just wondering, what are some of the most unlikely allies or most unexpected extended hands for help you received throughout these campaigns?
So in Finland, we had a woman who was taking photos of her feet on OnlyFans, and between feet photos, she was also posting the invitation to sign initiative for safe and accessible abortion. That one is fun, and when we were campaigning to change the definition of rape in Slovenia, we got a photo from the competition for Miss Slovenia of women in swimsuits holding yes means yes sign. And for us it was also like one of the unlikely allies. I was once attacked on the street, and I think I'm one of the few, Mitya is also here, we are one of the few activists who were physically attacked in Slovenia. And after the attack, we got a call from a rugby team in Slovenia who offered us help to be with us on the press conferences and protect us. And we got a huge donation from Slovenian Muslim community who sent us the money, and they texted me, that's for security, we are with you, even though we don't agree with everything. And maybe if I conclude with one story, So I was speaking about ANCHO, the environmental campaign, and the conservative guys. A few months ago, I was getting again a lot of death threats that if I have an event about abortion in one of the cities, that they will beat me up. And we wrote about this, we always write when they threaten us, because like people at least need to know. So when I came to this city, I noticed those guys in the first row, like these rural guys, religious guys from the community, and I went to them and I was like, what are you doing here? It's about abortion. And they were like, we came because they want to beat you up. And we love Yana Tsiansha, this is our ex-prime minister that I was fighting against, but we also love you. And if someone will want to do anything to you, that we are here to protect you. And after I finished the debate about the abortion, they said, can you give us some paper? We will collect signatures for you in our village. And this is one of the stories which I always come back when I want to believe that change is possible.